Okay, so I think we will start the webinar just now, as I see a lot of you have joined. So first of all, welcome thank you for joining this meeting today. My name is Sianne Svalebæk. I am a project manager here at the Vegetarian Society of Denmark, and I will facilitate this webinar today. I am here together with my colleague, Katrine Ejlerskov, who is the head of the Danish Center for Plant-Based and Organic Future. And together we represent the Vegetarian Society of Denmark in the Horizon 2020 project called Divin Food. So I will just shortly tell you what the Divin Food project is about. It's a project about co-constructing interactive and mid-tier food chains to value the agrobiodiversity in healthy plant-based foods. So the overall objective of the project is to facilitate the use and increase the value of these more neglected and underutilized crops, which in this project we call them NUCs. So if you hear us say that word, please know that it's just a word for describing these more neglected types of crops. So we work with them in the food chains to foster healthier diets and more sustainable food systems, but also to try and reverse the decline in agrobiodiversity. We are 26 partners from 7 countries. We have 9 living labs in the project, working with each their specific regional NUC. We started back in 2022, and the project will end in 2027. So as a part of this project, the Vegetarian Society of Denmark is responsible for a community in practice within the theme of more mildly processing of legumes and cereals. So the community in practice is a forum for sharing knowledge, inspiration, dilemmas, etc. Within the topic of mild processing of legumes and cereals. So we work on the milder processing side, so we don't work with heavily processed products like protein isolates and such. We work rather with fermentation into yogurt or milling into flour for baking or making pasta, etc. So in this community of practice, it will consist of both partners from the Divin Food project and stakeholders from these 9 living labs. And then it's also open to stakeholders from outside the Divin Food project. So in this way, it's kind of a dynamic forum, meaning that the number of participants and also the types of participants will change according to the type of activity in the community. And basically, it's an open community for everyone with an interest in NUCs or legumes and cereals within the mild processing theme. So it's our ambition to have a lot of stakeholders from different countries in different positions from the food chain who can share knowledge and inspire each other when working with this theme. So we are having 1 to 2 webinars each year where we cover different themes, and you can see some of the previous themes for our webinars on my screen. We had the fermentation, we had a theme on lupins, and we had a theme with mild processing where we dived into more some technicalities on mild processing. And so today we wanted to dive into more an understanding of the food chain surrounding these legumes and cereals. So we know in Denmark we are still not eating the recommended 100 grams of legumes per day. The newest number I heard was that we now eat 3 to 5 grams, And in some groups that are more interested in eating legumes, they eat about 10 grams a day. So we still have some way to go to making legumes and cereals, and especially these kinds of more overseen or neglected legumes, like a mainstream thing to eat. So how can we do that? That is the question. And how can we increase the sale also in large numbers? So we wanted to focus a bit on that today. And so we invited two speakers to maybe give us some insights in how we could do this. And unfortunately, I will just share the program. We have invited two speakers. Unfortunately, Sophia, who was our second presenter today, she could not join us. So we will save her presentation for another webinar. So we will might end a bit earlier today. But so the speaker we will hear from today. And we will have to say a very warm welcome to Christina Tønner Jensen from the think tank Frej, who will tell us about a very interesting Danish case. That is how the think tank Frej is working with connecting stakeholders from the food chain around legumes in Denmark in what is called the Danish Legume Partnership. So I don't think I will tell you a lot more for now. I think I will let Christina maybe also introduce yourself a bit further and the Legume Partnership. And we look forward to hear how you are working with increasing the sales and consumption of legumes in Denmark in this partnership. So I hope, Christina, you will turn on your microphone and I could maybe stop sharing my screen.
Yes. Thank you very much, Shanna. I've been
You're
looking
welcome.
very much forward to presenting the Danish Legume Partnership for you. So my name is Christina Tønner Lisdorf. I just got married last month, so I got a new last name. Yeah, and I've been working for Frej the past 1.5 years. And Frej, the think tank Frej, works to create a new food system that respects the planet's boundaries. So we build bridges and motivate the green change from farm to fork with key stakeholders across generations. We are around 22 employees, and I am responsible, and we do a lot of different projects, and I'm responsible for our legume partnership. Together, I also have a student on it, but otherwise it's only the two of us that are the secretary. And I've been looking very much forward to presenting it for you, and I'm very open to questions. So I don't know if I can see you while I am presenting, but otherwise, please just speak up loud, or we can take the questions afterwards.
Yes, I think we will do that, Christina.
Great. I think maybe I have to put. Can you see it?
Yeah, we see it.
Great. Super. Great. Well, this partnership was established 1.5 years ago, back in March 2024, and it is inspired by the Danish Whole Grain Partnership that has existed for more than 10 years, which also is a public-private partnership. And within the past 10 years, this Danish Whole Grain Partnership has achieved a significant increase of the Danes' average intake of whole grains. So this is really a partnership that we look up to, and this is how we got inspired to establish this partnership. The vision with the partnership is to promote public health and a more sustainable food system by getting Danes to eat more legumes. So Shanna just said that in Denmark we have a dietary guidelines that back in 2021 were reviewed, and for the first time both take health but also climate into consideration. And here it's recommended to eat daily intake of 100 grams of legumes per day, so 700 grams per week, and 350 grams of meat per week. So it's double up on legumes. That is the recommendations. But as Shannon also said, we are far from eating this. It's around 2 to 5 grams we eat today. So there's a long way, and there's not one answer on how we can solve this challenge. It requires collaboration across the whole value chain, and to have actors across the value chains to act and collaborate. And together in this partnership, we foster collaboration across the entire value chain. And then what is really unique about this partnership is that partners have to set a goal to increase sales or productions of legumes. And it is something that actually is a bit hard for the partners to set these goals. I think it's around a bit more than half of the partners have now sent in their goals, and these goals look very, very different compared to if it is, for instance, a big canteen. They can set goals on how many grams of legumes they want to serve to their guests. We have supermarket chains setting goals on their sales of legumes, but we also have other types of partners who set different goals, and for instance communicating 10 times a year about legumes. So they look very different, and I help the partners to set these goals, because it's, for some it's really hard, for others, big companies, it can be really hard to set these goals. And then I have these one-to-one meetings with partners, and here we together identify where we should make an effort. And then the partners, they monitor on their sales and these goals that they set. Then we also work on raising public awareness in Denmark about legumes and their health and climate. For the first time, we are having a national campaign this month, 3 times a year, physically around at partners, where we share inspiration and also challenges. And then we of course also look into funding, because at the moment we are only funded till the next year. And the funding is the supermarket Lidl, who stands by this. We are now in our second year. So originally Lidl, they funded fully the first year and halfly second and third year. But because we managed to get so many partners on board, they actually doubled up on their sponsor in the second year. But next year we're looking into either partners financing or looking into other funds. And because Lidl are financing the partnership, this also means that it is free for all other partners to be a part of the partnership. But Lidl have said that because they are the retail chain that is funding this, other retail partners can only be a part of it if they also give a sponsorship. So at the moment, it's only Lidl who are, which is the only retail chain, but I have a wish to get all other retail chains on board, because they're really, really important actor in getting the Danes to eat more legumes. And here you can see all of our partners. So we have partners from the whole value chain, from farmers to food producers. We have partners who make products, fermented products out of legumes. We have a big rye bread company in Denmark. In Denmark, we eat a lot of rye bread for lunch. So I'm working with them to set a goal of producing a new rye bread, putting legumes in it. We have also municipalities with us. And for them, it's really, really hard to set a goal, because there are some politicians that they have to get through, of course. But once they can set a goal, this is really a place where we can make a lot of change. We also have a lot of food service partners, which are really important as well, because here you have the volume. We, for instance, have ISS, international company you might know, and here in Denmark, they've set a goal that they want to serve 40 grams of legumes per guest in 2026. And they serve around 40,000 meals per day. So this is really something that can move the intake. So a lot of different suppliers, a lot of different partners, and also universities who support with knowledge to all our partners. And we are open to get more partners in, but what we have decided is that for now have to focus on getting all the partners to send in their goals. But we are open to get new partners. I'm just not using time on going out and getting new partners in for now. And luckily, because I'm one of the me and Thomas are the only ones here in Frej that work with the Legume Partnership, I'm very happy to have this steering committee, which consists of Lidl's head of corporate affairs and Katrine Ejlerskov. And we have Morten from ISS. We have Jens from Dava Foods, who traditionally produces a lot of eggs, but have now moved into the plant-based sector. Have Aarhus Municipality, Bente from here, and Jonas from Meyers Madhus, which is a big food company in Denmark that both have canteens and food courses and inspires a lot of Danes to eat more green. And I meet with this steering committee 4 times a year to talk about what way the partnership should go and get some input on how can I get these goals from the partners, what should we focus on our partner meetings, what should we look in on funding, and so on. And I'm really, really happy to have this group. We have a webpage where we have gathered a lot of knowledge about what the partnership does. And then what we also have in here is that we have established a closed partner page, which only partners can get into. And in here, the partners can meet each other. So they can find contact details on each partner, reach out to them. They can read how the partner works with legumes, which challenges they see, and how they need help from other partners. And then they can also see the partner's goals in here and get inspired on which kind of goals the partners have set. And some partners really use this, and other partners mostly get the insight from other partners when I have one-to-one meetings with them, where I also suggest them who I think they could collaborate with. And apart from this, we also have established a open knowledge hub where we have tried to gather. So unfortunately, it's only in Danish, I'm sorry, but here we have tried to gather the newest information and research about legumes, everything from farm to fork to also how to increase sales and focus on your communication, to recipes, and this is something that we continuously update, so we have all the newest knowledge in here. But how do we then measure whether the partnership is moving forward? Well, of course, it is the partners' goals. What we have told the partners to do now is that they have to set a goal for the end of 2026. And this is because this is the year we know we have funding until. We, of course, really, we do everything we can to get funding for as many years as possible, because the change takes time. And then we've also asked the partners to set a goal more in the future, where they can maybe dream a bit more, so a 2030 goal. But this goal is, of course, it's possible to change this goal as we come closer. So in 26, we're looking into the partner's goals and looking into if they have succeeded with them. And if they haven't succeeded with them, we look into, okay, why didn't you succeed? Which challenges was there? And how can we work on solving some of these challenges? Then we also do an annual population survey where we ask Danes about their consumption and attitude towards legumes. It's the pictures in down in the slides here, and here we, for instance, ask Danes which kind of legumes they have eaten before. The most popular in Denmark are edamame beans, kidney beans, and chickpeas. And then down in the bottom, we have the legumes we produce in Denmark, such as ingle peas. So it's definitely the international legumes that are most popular. We also ask the Danes about if they get inspired to eat more legumes when they walk into a supermarket, if they get inspired from their canteen. And a lot of Danes really get inspired in their canteen. We ask whether there are several products that they would like to buy. And here there's a lot of Danes that would like to buy a bread that contains legumes. So we also use this data to see, okay, how where are the Danes with their consumption, but we also use the data, give it to our partners and say, hey, look at these data. There's actually a market for this. There is someone who would be interested in buying this. We've only ran this survey once, and we're about to run it once again this winter. So it'd be very, very interesting to see if something has moved. What I thought was very interesting about the survey we did last year was that 51% of the Danes would like to eat more legumes, and 64% of families with children would like to eat more legumes. So there is really something to work on here. They really want it, but they need the inspiration from everywhere, in their canteen, when they go to the supermarket, when they open the magazines from the supermarkets. We need it everywhere. The Danes want to do it, so let's help them. Then there's also the National Food Institute's report, where they look into how many grams the Danes eat of all types of foods. And here the last one is 8 years old. And here we have around these 2 to 5 grams. And the new report is coming out at the beginning of next year. So of course, we're really looking forward to this. Then we also purchase barcode data from GS1 for all products not sold but registered in Denmark that contain legumes. Unfortunately, we can't see how much these products contain legumes. So even if it's only 1% or 100%, we get the data, and then we get it into different categories of frozen products and different products. And then we've only bought this once. We're going to buy it again, and then we can see each year if there are more products getting launched, and on the different categories. Of course, we can't see if it's getting sold, but we can see if there are new products on the markets. So there are a lot of different things we are looking into to see whether the partnership is moving. Of course, we also talk to our partners about if they think that they get something out of being a part of the partnership. The main goal in the partnership is to work towards getting the Danes to eat 100 grams of legumes. So we have to measure on if we're moving somewhere or if we're not. And if you would like to find more information, we actually have an English webpage. I can share this presentation afterwards with Shanna. You're very welcome. Or you can Google the Danish Legume Partnership, then I'm sure you will find it. So.
Thank you so much, Christina. I also learned some new perspectives of the Legume Partnership. Because as you told, we are, or Katrine is sitting in your steering group. But yeah, so of course he knows a lot. But it was also very informative for me, and I hope also for the rest of the listeners. I just have one question before we open up for a question from everyone. Because now we hear that we are very interested in eating edamame beans, kidney beans, and chickpeas in Denmark. Unfortunately, we don't produce that many chickpeas or kidney beans in Denmark. Do you somehow have a focus or wish to have a focus on these more Nordic sorts of legumes in Denmark? Is it something you work on or have an idea that you want to work on in the future? Or how do you see that? Yeah, what is your take on that?
Yes, well, our main goal is to get the Danes to eat 100 grams of legumes,
Yeah,
and this is what the Danish Veterinary and Food Administration advises. And in their advice, they don't take consideration into whether it's from Denmark or where it's from.
yeah,
So this means that our main goal is legumes, but not Nordic or Danish. But we also have a lower goal of focusing on Danish production. So we have farmers here in Denmark that we talk to them about which challenges are there and how can we produce more. And a lot of the farmers say we would like to produce more, but there's not a
mm,
market for it. It's too expensive, or we have problems when we produce the lentils because they fall
fall
down
down.
and there's
Yeah,
stones in, um, and this is where I also try to connect the farmers with the food service who can take a big volume.
yeah,
So it's definitely we actually just talked in the steering committee last Monday if we should focus on this at our annual. We have a big annual meeting at
yeah,
the Danish Parliament where we focus on the last year of the Legume Partnership and what we're looking into. And here we were talking about if we should have a focus on Danish legumes and production. And it was different in the steering committee. Some said, no, we need the Danes to know what a legume is before we focus on the Danish. And
yeah,
other partners really focus on, for instance, Maya, they really focus on the Nordic legumes. So
yeah.
some of the goals that the partners set they look into only Danish legumes and others look into global legumes, or what do you say?
Okay, thank you. Do we have questions from you guys out there for Christina? Please just unmute. Yeah, Berit?
Yes, hello. I'm from Bondwell Nordic, and so my question to Christina is: since you say you're measuring the intake, getting up to 100 grams, or trying to get to 100 grams, do you also differentiate between current users and non-users, trying to because there's a large group of non-users out there, trying to get them to increase? Are you thinking about those in those terms, and also geographically spread? We've had some focus groups showing a clear difference between Copenhagen almost people and the rest of the country, so to speak. I know I'm speaking in very broad terms, of course, but are you looking into those things?
Um, Thank you. I think that so we are not making this annual, or we are not making this report from D2U. So that's D2U who makes this, who measures the intake, and I'm quite sure they also look into um, men and women, and I don't, Katrine, maybe you know if they look into geographically D2U. I'm not sure if they do that, but
I
do you
don't
know
think
that?
it's not automatically. Then they would do like a separate report on that, and I'm not sure they will. I haven't heard about that.
Okay, thank you, Katrine. But I know that Sisse Fact from a researcher at DTU, she is is making a new report about the legumes, the intake of legumes, and looking into, okay, if we eat 10 grams, where do these 10 grams come from? Is it from hummus? Is it from falafels? Or is it chickpeas? Or what is it? I think it will be launched next year. In our annual report, where we where we ask the Danes. So we don't measure, we just ask them, have you been eating chickpeas or edamame beans? We don't know if they speak, if they estimate more. You never know that when you ask people. But here we also look into gender and geographically. And not surprisingly, it's mostly in the larger cities, Copenhagen and Aarhus, where they are eating most. Yeah, I can send you our report afterwards, Beat. I know we've also been in contact. I don't know if it's with you or some of your colleagues about being partners. And I'm very open to take a talk afterwards if you're interested to hear more.
Yes, we did get in contact, but we've had a unfortunate event of restricting people, the company. So not quite the resources right yet or currently.
But please let me know if you're interested. We could take a chat afterwards.
Sounds good.
Again, before Tara, I will give the microphone to you. I just think it's very interesting to to hear that it's, of course, it's in the big cities that you see people eating more legumes when it's actually produced in the countryside. So there's a bit of disconnect to the countryside. I mean, to the farm and to the ones producing your food, and that's just like a general issue, I guess, around. Maybe more here in the Nordics than maybe in the south. We shop more in the supermarkets. I just read that 80% of Danes buy their food from supermarkets. So yeah, maybe it would be nice if we could engage more in the countryside and the local producers. But yeah, I know they do that in for instance, France or Portugal or other more southernly countries.
Yeah, we actually have a project here in Frej, which is funded by the Danish Plant Fund, where we make small sketch videos together with a company called Dummy Entertainment. We've made 40 small sketch movies who are targeting young men from Jutland, so the western part of Denmark, and trying to get them to know more about plant-based foods in a very, very funny way. It's inspired about friends. And the first 30 videos on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook have been seen more than 10 million times.
Yeah,
so
it's quite impressive.
And we're trying to target the hardest target group in a new way.
Fantastic. Okay, so Tara, do you have a question for Christina?
Yeah, hi. So I'm doing hi everyone, thank you for the presentation. I'm doing a PhD on the common bean in sociology, and it's part of the Divine Food Project. So I have 2 case studies in France. And I was just curious, it's related kind of to the first question regarding local kind of locally produced or Danish legumes. I was wondering, because you mentioned, Christina, you mentioned some recipes. Is there a cultural memory or is there a cultural heritage tied to these to legumes in Denmark at all? Like, is there kind of a past use of these legumes at all? Maybe you mentioned it, but I didn't really understand what's the kind of historical, or maybe if it's relevant kind of for bringing them back, because in France it's part of, other than just this discourse around eating more pulses and vegetarian-based dishes, there's also this thing that's tied to a heritage and bringing something that existed from the past that could be kind of a unifying force of eating them again, in addition to the fact that they're healthy, etc. So I was wondering about that. Are there any kind of traditional recipes that we can make re-emerge? Because that's kind of what I'm seeing as being helpful in France. And then I was wondering, I have 2 more questions. I was wondering, the second question, how you were saying that the partnership, you're trying to measure if the partnership is moving forward. And you also mentioned that you're kind of relating that you're doing a survey to see if they're eating more per day. I'm wondering, how do you measure that relationship? Like, how can you be sure that the higher consumption is tied or not to this partnership, or is it just also just part of this movement that's happening of more people kind of wanting to disconnect from meat-based diets and moving towards more plant-based diets? Like, I'm wondering, how do you measure that connection? Or because you mentioned it also for the partnership on whole grains, that it's successful. So how do you measure that success? I was wondering that. And the second one, you mentioned that there's the third one, sorry, you mentioned that there's like the official dietary guidelines were reformed to take into account, in addition to health, also climate. So if you're looking at the consumption, whether it's local, whether, you know, I'm guessing whether it's organic or not as well, like it's not just organic, I'm assuming. Like, where does the climate dimension come into play in all this? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tara. I'll try to remember all the questions. So first, the heritage. We have been producing a lot of legumes in Denmark, specifically peas, and we were one of the countries in Europe that produced the most, as far as I know. But then there's the challenge with the peas is that you can get this pest, do you call it that, where you ruin the farm and you can't use the soil for many years. So suddenly we stopped to produce peas in Denmark and moved into producing much more of meat. We have a traditional dish in Denmark called yellow peas, which at least my mom and my grandmother, I think, ate once a week. But now in Denmark, it's been the last 50 years moved into more what are we having for dinner? Meat with something. So when I ask chefs how should we get the Danes to eat more, they say, well, the lucky thing is that Danes like to travel a lot, and in a lot of other countries they're very good at eating legumes, and there are a lot of Mediterranean dishes with legumes, a lot of Middle Eastern dishes, Indian dishes, South American dishes, and where it's common in the dishes. So it's all this inspiration we have to give the consumers. Yeah. And then you asked, how do we know the connection between if we eat more legumes, if it's because of the partnership? Of course, we can't say it's because of the partnership, because there's a lot of other good initiatives going on. But what I really like about the partnership of setting these goals is when a partner set a goals, for instance, Lidl, they set a goal that they want to hire their sales of legumes with 25%. They can't just do as normal. Then they have to look into, okay, should we place the legumes at a different place in the supermarket? We have to make recipes. We have to highlight it on social media. We have to. So once setting a goal, you also have to do stuff about it. So of course we don't know about the if it's. Yeah, we can't know for sure if it's because of the partnership, but because there are so many good initiatives going on. What is also different with the whole grain partnership is that they have a logo called the whole grain partnership that a lot of the Danes know. And when you go to the supermarket, you can see, okay, this pasta has whole grain, this bread has whole grain. And there's also been a talk in our partnership if we should have this this label on legumes. But this is also more if the partnership is being paid by partners, then of course they need to get something in return. So it's an ongoing talk if we should have this label, and some partners think it's a good idea and other partners think there's so many labels already. And then the last question was about the dietary guidelines and the climate. Yeah, so if we also measure on the climate part, we actually only look into the the intake of legumes. So we don't look into. I don't know if the Danish Food and Veterinary Administration if they look into like our general CO2 emissions, Katrine, maybe you know that it could make sense, but again, then you maybe don't necessarily know, is it because of the food intake, the production, the transport sector, like what is the connection? It's a big question. Yeah.
I can say that I know that many of the the canteen operators, they have like CO2 emissions built into, like they follow those numbers, right? And they and with the increase of legumes and decreased meat, they can really see a difference there. I'm not sure about the DTU if they will measure that.
Okay, thank you. I see Thomas, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question or more? Maybe?
Yes, I do. No, I have one question. Hi, Christina. I'm Thomas, and I'm the founder and CEO of a Swedish little company called Nordisk Råvara. And we are producing a wide range of legumes and special crops here in Sweden with a farmer network of a little bit more than 50 farms growing. And I've been doing this for 15 years, and one of the challenges here in Sweden is exactly what you're trying to address in Denmark, to get more legumes on the plates and served, especially in school food and so on. We have this unique opportunity with all the school lunches in Sweden, and to really improve and change and develop our food culture in a good way. But it's a slow process. I'm a little bit envious that you have your initiative going there. We need that in Sweden too. But lately we have there is a rising issue here with preparedness and self-sufficiency, talking about imported legumes versus domestically grown, and our municipalities have gotten a lot of money and a high responsibility to increase the regional supply capacity of food, meaning that they have to look at local production and regional production and native domestic production. And I think that's going to be a huge driver for us. So we're looking into setting up these rotary buffers of legumes, because if we, God forbid, but if we end up in a crisis, we know that the protein is not an issue when we have, the options that we have today, and we can import all kinds of food and so on. There's mostly fibers and other stuff we need to focus on for our health. But if we end up in a crisis, it's going to be the protein that's going to be, the issue. And dry legumes is actually, of course, the best way of storing food and survival material for us. That's how we survived up here in the Nordics, in the Middle Ages, when we had our peas and beans and stuff like that, both for animals and ourselves. You're talking about the continuation, and you have a little bit of a discussion about the import versus the domestic production, but isn't this a driver in Denmark as well? Aren't you talking about preparedness and self-sufficiency in these things? That should be a strong driver for getting your own production going.
Thank you, Thomas. We are not talking as much about it as in Sweden and Norway, but I think now after the drone situation, more people are prepping and looking into that. But in Denmark, we are a country that produce a lot of food. We produce food to 3 times our own population. So we already produce a lot of food, but I think it's 60% of the Danish country that is cultivated, and 80% of this cultivated land is used to produce feed to animals. We are good and efficient and producing animal in Denmark, but here in Frej we have we think that we should produce more food for humans than food for animals. There is a discussion about it in Denmark about the self-sufficiency, but there are also a lot of strong actors in Denmark focusing a lot of that we're really good and efficient on meat production, and we should continue to do that. So what the Danish farmers tell me is that they can't get their legumes sold because they are sold at a higher price than the global market, which is stupid, but that's just unfortunately how it is, and price is just very, very, very important. So there's something here about the price, and maybe there should be made initiatives where the Danish legumes farmers could get some more support so they could start it, because they really want to produce it, but they say that they just don't have enough who wants to buy it.
I see. Because that's where I hope that all this money that the Swedish government now is setting aside and distributed through the municipalities mainly the money will not be an issue in the same way. So that's really an important thing with this setup. So and we have got some interest from Norway and Finland as well that wants to collaborate around these things. I was just wondering what the status was in Denmark, because I haven't really heard anything from you.
Katrina, I don't know if you have a comment on it.
Yeah, I think some from the political side, I've heard some of the people in the government, for example, Ida Auken from the Social Democratic Party. She is really taking this issue into the political discussions. So it is definitely something that, like, when otherwise the issue might be lost behind all the war discussions. So she puts this as a security issue. So it is taken seriously from the political side.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thomas, but maybe just a comment. I talked to something called Skånebønnen, which is a really cool initiative as well, looking into producing more legumes in Skåne. So
yeah, we have a lot of farmers in Skåne, also a little bit related to that, but we're in all parts of Sweden, and one of our aim is really to try to climb higher and higher up in Sweden and use the land in a smart way up there too. So we have farmers all over. Yeah.
Very inspiring. Keep up the work.
Thank you.
And thank you, Thomas. And Juna, do you have a comment or a question for Christina?
Yes. So good morning to you. And so I was in the train. And
Juna, I think there's something with your microphone. Do you hear Juna, Christina?
I'm trying to check the sound up. It's a bit unclear.
Oh, sorry, because I'm not now in the train, so I'm supposed to be at home, and it's supposed to work. So let's see.
Do you have a headset, Juna, maybe?
Let's just block. So I will try to if another question is so I will try to make something better. Just a few minutes.
I can just add something for the discussion about the you just had, and I just heard some month ago a survey done on which fruits or vegetables we would be self-sufficient with if a crisis hits Europe or Denmark related to the war and all, and it was mainly onions, and I don't remember if it was carrots and or potatoes. So and then of course we have a lot of pigs in Denmark. It's 30-40 million, and we are like 5-6 million people in Denmark, and so of course, we have protein, but it's kind of the wrong protein, taking off all the land and the feed for this protein source also. So I think it's a good way to try to highlight that we need to produce more legumes, but we have to produce less pigs because we don't have the space also. So, Juna, does it work now?
Let's try.
Yes, it works.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I don't know what happened. Yeah, so I'm Yona Shifolo from France, so from INRAE, and I coordinate the Divine Food project. So thank you so much for your presentation. So in Divine Food, we especially are working on short food chain, but also mid-tier chains that could be developed with supermarkets. But this mid-tier chain means that when you sell a product in the supermarket, you also sell a story and something just to make the difference with generic production that could come from even China, and so it come from we do not know where. That's why. And that's your partnership with Lidl is of course interesting because as we can see, there were a lot of projects on legumes funded by the European Commission, and we can see that all of them failed because we do not have success, and the production is especially at the consumption side. And consumption in France, it's also very low, and while we had a lot of projects. So that's why we have to think differently. So short food chain can be a way with direct selling and something very locally embedded. And for supermarkets, so that's why I think in Divine Food we have time and even money for experimentation. So I was just wondering if some more concrete experiments have been done or will be done with Lidl to test the efficiency of the 4P, different 4P strategies. So price, placement you just mentioned this before, but just maybe more concrete, and maybe also with additional information about maybe the origin of the legume, not in itself, but in addition to price, placement, different placement in the shop, just to because you have the opportunity with Lidl to have a space of experiment. So we would be very interested to test something. We also, in the project, we propose something about nudge or something like that, that DVF also has to think about and maybe to carry out. So how could we have this opportunity? So this partnership, is it open to this opportunity for concrete experiments that could be also an additional or another avenue of research in complementary, of course, with short chain that we are working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Yona. So Lidl, they are collaborating with Copenhagen Business School, where they have made some interventions in the supermarkets and looking into the placement of legumes and see if there's a difference in the sales. And what they found out is if the legumes are placed next to the vegetables in the vegetable section, then they sell more legumes. Then I said to Lidl, okay, great. Then why don't you place all your legumes there? Now you know. And then they told me that, but they don't have the shelves for it in all supermarkets. So some places they have done it, but in other supermarkets they can't do it. I tried to push them. I think it's really good that they collaborate with CBS, that they get this information. I try to push them a lot. I also push them with their goal. I would like to get them to, I don't know if it's a big thing in other countries as well, but these magazines, what you call them, that you once a week you can see what's on sale in the supermarkets, that I told Lidl every week you should have legumes in it. Every week you should have it. You should inspire. When we ask the Danes if you get inspired to eat more legumes when you walk into a supermarket, only 14% of the Danes say they get inspired. On the first page of all the magazines for all the supermarkets in Denmark, it's meat everywhere. I'm trying to push them, and my contact is the head of corporate affairs, but also Nina from their CSR department, and she's also trying and pushing, but all the buyers also have their goals, and she's also working to push them. And I think they could definitely do more, but now they're also starting up a new experiment with CBS, and they are actually, from next month, they are taking Danish legumes into their stores from a partner we have from Bornholm, who produces Danish legumes, and this is a big thing that they are taking this into. But now I just really hope that it will sell, and they will make a campaign and put focus on it, because if they don't inform on their social media, in their magazines, or put it in a good place, then the consumers don't know they can buy it, and then after a month the buyers will say, oh, but it didn't sell, let's take it out. So I also think they have a big responsibility of trying to push it forward. But they have made a lot of recipes and trying to inspire. So I really think that they're doing something, but they could do more. Let me say it in that way.
Thank you, Christina. Katrine, do you have your hand raised, or was it an old hand? Katrine? Oh, you took it down. Okay. So Tara, do you have another comment or question?
Yeah, it's just a quick comment, and
Yep.
it relates to what Yuna and Katrina were talking about. Christina, sorry. And it's just maybe an idea, because it made me think about maybe something that's more interactive. Like, I don't know if Lidl does this, but we see it in Divine Food at more like farm, maybe like local farm events, kind of. So it's not really, but the idea could be applicable within a supermarket space to do more like of a taste testing with consumers, where you have someone that's present, either a chef or someone else and I've seen it in supermarkets. I'm from Canada, and I've seen it in Canada, especially if the scale of that Lidl is not too huge, but maybe more placed within the aisles that are relevant to legumes, where they sell them. But I mean, always having someone there that's proposing something maybe could also be. I know in some of the living labs in Divine Food, like that's what happens as well. Not in a supermarket space once again, but it happens in other spaces, and it does pique the curiosity of consumers. So it's just an idea.
Thank you, Chair. Really good idea. I'll try to pass it on to Lidl. I know that they also have a big focus on local products, and they have their own like label where they focus on, okay, this is a local product, and try to tell a story about it. So I just think that I also like try to be humble when I give them ideas, but they also expect a lot from me. So I also think that I can give them ideas as well. Yeah. Thank you, Tara.
Katrine? Now you raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you. It was just a comment and then a question. So I think what we discussed also at the steering group committee was Lidl and so many other actors are quite frustrated about the say-do gap. So as you mentioned, Christina, is was it more than 50% of the consumers are actually interested in eating more legumes? But even though, I mean, they find it very difficult to act upon it, and also with the Lidl's good I mean, the things that they do with recipes and placement and such is still, I mean, the commercial angle is still sometimes struggling a bit, right? But I have a questions regarding like the goal setting, which is very important in this partnership, and I completely agree that it makes changes within the organizations to make KPIs and to really work with increasing legumes. But some of the partners that are involved in the partnerships are also competitors. So can you just share with us your reflections about how do we kind of come across that issue?
Very good question, Katrine. So from the beginning, I thought that these goals should be open for everyone, because I think when you commit to this partnership, you set a goal. It's a partnership. It should be open. But then a lot of the partners, also one from our steering committee, was like, no, we can't share our goal. We hand it into you, and then it's only you who knows about it, because it's competition. And then we talked in the steering committee about, okay, how should we do this? So we decided that it's only the partners who can see each other's goals. So you can see them on the closed partner page, and in here you can see the goals. Then when they send them in, they can tell me it's okay to share the goals on social media or in articles if you ask me first. And actually most of partners do this, but other partners like, no, we can't share it. I think it's a good thing to have these shared goals where the partners can see it, because what I can see is that it actually pushes some of the partners to set more ambitious goals. So some partners are, of course we shouldn't, like, what you do is different but in what we do, but if you are a food service company, then you serve food. So when I try to get these partners to set goals, I say, go into our partner page, take a look at these 5 partners who look a bit like you, and here you can get inspired. So I know for some partners it is a challenge, but that you have to share them openly. But we have decided here in the steering committee that it is now part of the closed group, and most of the partners are okay with it, and they also use it in their communication, that, okay, we take responsibility on trying to get the Danes to eat more goals. We've set these goals. So it's still a challenge for some, but for most of them, it's okay to share.
Thank you, Christina. Do we have any more questions for Christina? Well, we used okay, Berit, you have another question?
Yes, well, maybe more a comment, but leading back to the question about inspiration on the retailer level, and especially talking about Lidl, I think it is very important that you keep talking with the retailers. I work with canned legumes, and there we know that 92% of all canned legumes sold are private label. 92%. So it's very difficult for a branded producer to come and bring inspiration, put up displays, etc., because a very small amount sold is actually branded and is split among several different brands. So it's very important to talk to the retailers, especially the large ones. And it's great that that Lidl is in, but they're still not a huge part of the market. So it's very important that you continue speaking and working with the retailers on this. So that's mostly like a comment, not so much a question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Berit. I'll continue pushing them, and also hope in the future that we can get other retailers that can be a part of the partnership.
Yeah, but I know from our side, we also have projects with the retailers and also with the food service on bringing more plants, including legumes in the shops. And we also, I mean, our colleague Marie, maybe you know a bit more in specifics, Katrine, what she's doing right now, but some supermarkets we just shared in a press release are using a tool called the Protein Tracker to try and measure how much plant protein and how much animal protein they have up on in their sales. And so there's something is definitely happening also in the shops, and we also do like nudging experiments with the retailers. Sometimes if I remember correctly, Marie was out with some small signs trying to put up and to see if that had an effect on consumers' willingness to buy legumes. And yeah, so we also do different kinds of interactions with the retailers, and we work a lot with them actually in projects. So we also try to push it from our side. But yeah, it's some way to go still. So I only see a name called iPhone who has a question.
Yeah, hey, this is Marcus from Better.
Hi,
Great
Marcus.
webinar. Hey, guys. 2 questions. One is curiosity. Why do you think 92% of canned beans are private label? That's maybe for the Panduel expert. And the second question is, have you done any research? What is currently holding consumers back from using more legumes? What are the friction points or the challenges that they face? Is it inspiration? Is it how to use it? Is it the application and the availability of it? Yeah, those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
But do you want to see if you could answer the question about the 92% of the canned products being private label?
Yes, it's certainly very much a price question. So over the past few years, when overall we've had inflation, we've seen prices increase, costs increase, obviously. We've actually seen somewhat of a price drop on canned legumes, on canned private label legumes. So the price is quite low, which makes it even more interesting for consumers to look that way, basically. So the price gap has increased between branded and private label canned legumes. So that certainly makes a huge difference. Also in regards to the shelf space, the private label has a lot of shelf space. Yeah. So, and also there is not one brand in Denmark of canned legumes that's really dominant. You have private label and you have a bunch of others. In Sweden, for example, you have one dominant brand and some smaller ones, of course. So those things make a difference. And since a lot of it is private label, of course, it can be good quality. I'm not going to diss everything because, of course, it can be good quality, but a lot of it is also not. So you may not get the best sensoric experience when you eat those things. It can also be a restraining factor. And for private label, they also don't do a lot of inspiration, like putting it out on displays, because it's brands paying for those things usually. So they don't do a whole lot of inspiration with leaflets and all those like separate small and S-hooks and everything. They don't do that. So you have a bit of a thing that's reinforced itself there. So I hope that answers it from my perspective anyway. Sorry.
Thank you, Berit. And Christina, could you answer the
Yeah,
part of the question?
Yeah, so when we ask the Danes, so why, if you want to eat, half of the Danes want to eat more, so why don't you eat it? 50% says, I need inspiration, I need a recipe, I don't know how to cook it.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a bit weird that they need recipes, because when you Google recipes with legumes, you find so many delicious recipes. When you go to Instagram, there's so many bloggers that do a lot of recipes. So it just underlines that the inspiration really needs to be there. When you stand in the supermarket in front of it, you need to have the inspiration here. When you open the magazine from the supermarket, the inspiration has to be there. When you go to your canteen, the inspiration really has to be there. Yeah.
And Yuna, do you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I've got another question. So in living food, more largely than legumes, we are interested to how we can promote neglected crops or underutilized crops. So is it a question, an issue that that could have been developed, discussed in the partnership on legumes, or because legumes are just a part of crops that are underutilized in your country, underconsumed. So, and we think that it could be also another kind of argument to share and to promote, to say that when you eat, when you consume, you also save biodiversity, cultivated biodiversity. We know that we are very dependent on rice, wheat, and maize, and we have to support different crops also to be more resilient. So, and resilience is also an issue. I just wonder if this kind of other arguments, not only health, not only individual consumption, but something linked to also to a common issue, could has been discussed in your partnership, or could be discussed in your partnership, also to make perhaps add another ambition to and also another, so perhaps it could inspire people more interested by these questions than only for personal health. So it was just a question.
Thank you, Yuna. We actually ask in our survey, we ask why they eat legumes, the Danes, and the main reason is because they're healthy. So like, what's in it for me? It's because they're healthy. The second thing is because I feel full after having a meal with legumes, and more down on the scale is because of climate. So it's also important in the communication, but the health thing is the most important of what we can see from our survey. And taste, that it tastes good, also very important. Health and taste.
Yes, at the consumer level, but in the partnership, it's just Lidl and the other partners, even institutional partners, that also could it could be also interesting to discuss with them how legumes are not only legumes, but they are also part of cultivated biodiversity that is endangered. And that could also, it could be, even for Lidl, it could be an argument to say that Lidl, for its social and environmental responsibility, has to do something with to reverse the trend of biodiversity decline.
Yeah. So in that way, that the companies have to step up because they have to take responsibility for biodiversity and climate and so on. Yeah, that's a very good reason to step in on this. And I know that Lidl, actually, they have a lot of in their contracts with their with who they
Suppliers.
buy, with their suppliers. Thank you, Tiana. They have a lot of measurements on biodiversity and they're very strict. So if companies don't follow this, then they can't get into Lidl. They're also the supermarket chain in Denmark that, for instance, have the most fair trade products. But I think it could be discussed also in when I have the partners discussions with them about their goals. This could also be a part of why to set a goal, and maybe also to go to their CEO and say, this is why it's important that we are on this, this agenda.
Yeah.
Good point.
Thank you, Yuna. And Katrine, did you raise your hand or you took it down? And then I have one hand still raised over here, Marcus. Is it a question or is it just an old hand staying on your picture?
Old hand. So it's
Old
down.
hand.
Thank you.
Okay. So I don't know if we have any more questions, but we almost used all the time only on your presentation and a lot of curious questions and good comments, Christina. So yeah, I'm very happy that you were able to join and share this all your knowledge and yeah, the good story of the Legume Partnership. I hope people are clapping. Yeah. I hope that you all took some learnings with you today from this Danish example. And I will make sure to share your slides, Christina, and the report, if you will send me this report you mentioned.
Yes,
Is
but
it in English?
It's in Danish. I'm sorry.
Okay, so maybe it's possible to put it in chat GPT or in Google Translate and maybe take something from it.
Maybe I'll share it with you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I want to thank you all for joining and for engaging in this very interesting discussion. And I think I have on my last slide here. I just wanted to. Okay, I think I will send you all an email instead of showing you my screen with a lot of web pages to follow and look on. I will send you an email with the Divin Food homepage. We also have a LinkedIn site for the Divin Food project that you could follow. I will invite you to a stakeholder list where you could have news on outcomes from the project, but I think it's easier to do that on email. And then I will also at the same time share your all the things from you, Christina. So I think that would be easy. So thank you very much for joining, and look forward to seeing you another time. And have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.